is part of what I'm talking about today is I don't think that probably ever any one age or one particular thing as far as when people do, because I think, and part of it is you see at the end here, and this isn't to say just males, I'm not excluding females, I'm just going statistics. But part of when you're talking about why it's different with brain injury is the fact it does tend to happen to younger people, even in general. So what happens is the coping is revisited over and over again because of the stages of life. We all have, if your injury happens in your early 20s, and sometimes people think, well, mid to late 20s you're supposed to be married, and by early 30s I've had a family, and I'm supposed to be at a certain place in my job by my 40s. The stages of life that people had their expectations that don't happen because of the injury, that's where that revisiting comes from and the ongoing grieving. So what happens is there's no magical point sometimes where people ever fully
accept the element,
Yeah, because I think you always have a part of, hopefully learning to live with what there is in the new part of things, but I think always an element of grieving for some of it. There was a question over, does someone have a, yep. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, Donnie, yep.
Well, for me, it's hearing you present over and over that the process of grief takes many years. When I first had my stroke, my grief was so severe, I was just told to be quiet, don't cry, etc., from my caregivers, and these were clinicians. And when I internalized that, I just became more angry. But over the years, I nurtured the grief, it molded, I figured out what I really needed to say inside and out, and when it was time to verbalize it, it came out more intelligently.
But you also said 10 years, is that right? Is it 10?
8 years.
8 years for you, okay, so 8 years.
So it's taken since the last presentation last winter until now for me to really figure this out.
But also 8 years ago, and that's why I'm talking some about the professional part, there was a lot of not validating for people what those emotions were and recognizing why they needed to happen.
I was going to say, too, some of the research that I did in school, it's not a linear process always, too. So you might go through a stage of grief because a particular situation has arisen, and then you get past that and you think, okay, I'm home free, and then something else can happen to remind you. So you can revisit those stages, too, and have to go through them. So it is a lifelong process of cycling through, these different stages.
Yeah, and that's why it's not a cut and dry. Sometimes, I think, and we're going to talk about the stages of grieving that are more kind of the classic way we think of them, and it follows a certain pattern for people dealing with a death. There's a little bit more of a concreteness to that, and I don't mean it's easy, it's not black and white, but the difference